Let me tell you what this is not. This is not an aspirational, super clean, hyper-organized, spark joy, millennial beige kind of video. This is not a before and after, from this moment on my life is different now kind of video. This is not advice. I am not qualified to give it. Doesn't stop me from trying. This is not a manual for living your best life, because I don't. On a scale, I would say I live about here. If this is best, worst, just about. I would estimate I live my median life. This is none of those things. What this is a video where I try my best. British boy does his best challenge. It's March now, and let's not spend too much time thinking about how it was November yesterday. And March means it's prime time for a spring clean. In here, but also in here. I did have a bit of a struggle at the start of the year, to tell you the truth. A lot of chaotic thoughts going on up here that we weren't a fan of. In the past when I felt that way, I've decided to make a few major life changes and expected results overnight. And then I'm frankly stunned to learn that there isn't an immediate future-defining impact from these major life choices, so I put them all in the bin, and then I sulk until New Year and start all over again. Well, no longer. We started the year off with intentions rather than resolutions, and those are going quite well. And now I thought I'd try and slowly introduce some healthier habits into my life, and you're coming with me, kicking and screaming. Little changes, baby steps. You know when you're dealing with a scared animal and you have to go softly and like coax it out, bit by bit, you just have to sort of get it to trust you, and then it starts getting stronger and its faith in you grows stronger, and before you know it, said animal has its own TikTok account. Well, that, but my inner well-being. It's a three-pronged attack. I'm going to update you on all of them. We've got a new work situation. We've got a new exercise situation. But first, I thought we'd start in the kitchen for two reasons. There's too much maths. We're starting in the kitchen because I love being in the kitchen and cooking for myself and others, but when I'm not feeling well, that is the first thing to slip. And because when I moved in, I just sort of shoved everything in a place and left it there, and then I've been up and down ever since. That part of taking care of myself has basically been non-existent. So we want to fix that, and I'm going to do it by tackling the cupboard situation. But the other reason that we're kicking off in the kitchen is because this video has a sponsor. Oh my gosh, thank you, HelloFresh. I'm sure you already know, but for the uninitiated, HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service which delivers fresh ingredients straight to your door. I've been a customer with them pretty much since I moved in here, basically. I mean, it's a really good way to nudge yourself into making home-cooked meals without a great deal of effort. You pick out your meals in advance, there's a ton of choice, and you know you're gonna get everything you need in the box, so you don't have to think too much. You won't need to worry about shopping or making a last-minute dash for an ingredient you forgot. And also, it's fully customizable, so you can choose how many meals you want and how many people you want them for. Each dish has a recipe card with pictures and step-by-step instructions, so it's super simple. And actually, when I'm in this mode and I'm trying to get myself into a rhythm, I find getting a box and having all the forethought taken out of cooking is such a big help with getting the ball rolling and putting me in that positive mindset. And you can choose to pause your deliveries anytime you want. So if you're going away on holiday, if you don't want a box that week, it's dead easy. I highly recommend. The box arriving is always a lovely little treat, and we love our HelloFresh weeks when we've ordered them in. So if you want to get in on the fun, I can help you with that. Bang, right here, little QR code. Just go ahead and scan it and you can get 60% off your first box and 20% off your next 2 months, and a few free little gifts popped in there as well. Or you can follow the link in the description with the code right here and take full advantage. I was really glad I had a box this week, because when you are starting your little healthy habits and you're trying to get yourself into a rhythm, it's nice to have that little sort of, I guess, a buffer, like a comfort blanket. I knew I had my box at home, so I didn't need to worry about that part. So thanks so much, HelloFresh, for the sponsor. And since we're in the kitchen, let's have a look. So originally what I planned to do was a sort of like cozy time-lapse ASMR tidying portion of the vlog, which I know like people like, and it is good. It's just that the whole point of this is to get myself into gear and organize, and what this would be me putting things away in a place where I don't want them to live, and that is stressful, just sort of moving piles of mess from one place to another, ostensibly trying to clean, and nobody wants that. So instead what I'm going to do is this. There you go. Jobs are good. Let me give you a quick walkthrough of the kitchen itself, because it's helpful to have a lay of the land, as it were. Obviously we have, you know, the fridge. It's great at keeping things cool, but not as good as the freezer, which is the ultimate champion of keeping things very cold indeed. We have an awful lot of cupboard space. This is the most effective cupboard of them all, because it's just for spices. Like, it's just a bit above where the extractor fan goes, and they've got a spice rack there. So like, they've really thought that one through. Here above the sink, we have a sort of double space, which currently is the home of every mug in the United Kingdom. Plates, bowls, some miscellaneous bar-related glasses up there. This one I'm using as a sort of pantry-esque thing, but it's it's impossible. I mean, look at it. It's complete clutter. I can't really tell what I've got, and that's part of the problem. One of my key issues with not, you know, being on top of everything, not being on top of all my waste, not being on top of cooking properly for myself is not being able to see what I've got, not being able to come up with ideas. Everything falls apart when you can't see what you've got. When you're out shopping on the way home from work, you're like, well, have I got chopped tomatoes? I can't remember, because it's just a complete mess in there. But then also over here, I've got more glasses. I'm looking at this now and I know you're all screaming, this is a deeply ineffective use of space, and you're correct. The problem is in these small cupboards like this one, which is just very thin. I have 4 very thin, small cupboards where it's like kind of hard to put more than just a little bit of something. And so as a result, I've just sort of put things in them and shoved them towards the back, and then they get lost, and it's like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing with that. And then down here, I've got this cupboard, which ducks around the corner, but there's no sort of like, you know, those posh kitchens that have a sort of, ooh, that slides out and you can get access to everything. That's just a black hole back there. Half the time I'll put something and then it crumbles to the bottom shelf. I don't know. And then over on this side, I've got a little sort of kitchen island trolley situation where I just shove everything else on. I think my priority is probably sorting out my baking shelf. In fact, I'm gonna get all my baking stuff out so that we can have a look at that together. Okay, this was a good decision because it illustrates the problem quite succinctly. First of all, an awful lot of tea and coffee related things, which we don't have a set space for, just got shoved in, which then pushed a lot of things to the back and made it feel like we didn't have it. For instance, the other day, her indoors made cupcakes and she went and bought some icing sugar, not realizing that we have a full jar of icing sugar. And this one really bothers me. I found this jar of Nutella that was in that cupboard, and that is infuriating because it was pancake day the other day. We didn't think we had any Nutella, so now we've got 2 open jars of Nutella. Fortunately, this one has quite a long expiration date, and I'm thrifty, so I'll find a way to use this before it expires at the end of next month. On expiration date, this is another problem with not knowing what you have and not being able to use it, because I have things in there right at the back, like this jar of jam, which has an expiration date, because it is a jam, of like March 2025. But I also found this desiccated coconut that I picked up at a shoot that we did. There was just some going spare and I was like, well, I'll have that and I'll make something with it. Reader, I didn't, and now it expires in May 2024. Thankfully I caught it in time, because if there's one thing I hate, it's massive food waste. This tin of pumpkin puree, best before November 2023, RIP in peace, except I'll do some Googling. I feel like it's probably okay for a little bit longer. What's that thing, survivalism? Like if you're The Last of Us, you know the guy, he lives in the basement, he's got loads of canned goods. I bet it's gonna be fine, but I know some people are wobbly about expiration dates, so I will have a look. There is a difference between best before and use by, well illustrated by self-raising flour, because I think a lot of people, you buy flour, you whack it in, you think that's good for a long time. Self-raising flour has raising agents in it, things like baking powder, things like bicarbonate of soda, and while them going off past their expiration date, it's not necessarily going to be bad for you, it means they won't work as effectively. So if you're doing a recipe and it calls for self-raising flour, if it's past its best before date, the raising agents aren't going to do their job properly, and you're going to get a cake and think, well, why did that recipe not go well? It's probably because you're using out-of-date baking powder, bicarb, self-raising flour, all the rest. Anyway, the other thing that this cupboard illustrated quite nicely is when you are dealing with limited space, this cupboard is a bit mini. You want to optimize the space entirely, and a jar like this, which is round and also bulky, is leaving a lot of space that could otherwise be filled. So I think what I need to look for are better jars, and then I can repurpose this either for making like a terrarium if I was incredibly crafty. Love that my brain went straight to making a terrarium, as if I have anything close to that level of skill. I wish that my brain was as confident in me as it was in that moment all the time. We'd be in a much better position. So thank you, baking cupboard, for being a hot mess and allowing me to illustrate the issue. With all of that said, I think I'm gonna go to the shops. I've heard of a magical place called B&M. A more effective plan, as I said in my previous organisational video, was to make a plan of what you've got and then go and get it and then come back so you're not getting excess waste. It's just that I don't really have the time, and I'm impatient. I want to get this done. But maybe by focusing on the baking cupboard, that'll help us work outwards. So let's live on the edge. Let's be a bit chaotic. Come on then. What a grotty day. So I instantly regret leaving the house without a plan, and that could stress me out, but in the spirit of healthy habits, we're reframing it to a more positive mindset. We're not going in blind. We're not going out with absolutely no plan whatsoever and maybe coming back and making several mistakes. No, we are on a fact-finding mission. What are the facts we'll find? Well, that's the point of the mission. Positive mindset. So it turns out B&M is an interesting place. It's rows upon rows of stuff. When I was in America, I went to a place called the Container Store, and I've never been so happy in probably my whole life. And I had kind of hoped that B&M was going to be a version of that. I knew it was part supermarket, part homeware, organisy place. I've seen my fair share of B&M hauls on the ticks and the tocks, but I found the container element of it to be slightly underwhelming and overwhelming at the same time. Like I said, interesting place. There's just so much of it, and you kind of don't really know where to look, and because of the nature of a shop like that, people just pick stuff up and put it back wherever they want, so you can kind of be confused by pricing, all the rest of it. It's very odd. But the purpose of the mission was to fact find, and phase 1 of fact finding complete. I managed to get a whole bunch of stuff. I found, let's do a haul! So I got a few of these little boxes. I measured the small cupboards to see how big they are, and they're 27 centimeters. What I did forget was to take the measuring tape with me to the shop, but I feel like that those will probably fit. Okay, I think we're gonna be, I mean, yeah, look at that. That's fine. That's fine. Oh, how nourished. I mean, I could maybe even get 3 in there. Let's have a see. No, but that's okay too. They also look, I mean, who knows what 1500 milliliters is in sizes of produce that you get in bags at the supermarket, but they look about the same size as a bag of sugar. So I got 4 of this size for light brown, dark brown, castor and icing sugar. And they stack like that if you want them to. I don't, but you could. I'll need to label them somehow, but that's a job for future Dan, because I also got larger ones because flour comes in larger bags. If this works out, I will look at getting similar stuff for like oats and things like that. Maybe they will live in the baking cupboard. I don't know. This is all the fact finding. We're fact finding. And the other theory of the case that I had in terms of fact finding was I believe that if you can't see it, you forget that it's there, as we discussed with the Nutella theory. So what I have done is buy this big sort of clear plastic box to put in stuff that already has packaging of its own. So like baking powder and bicarbonate of soda, they come in their own packaging. They can just live in here, and then when it's time to bake and I'm getting my ingredients out, I like to do the mise en place before I begin. Technical term. I can just take the box out and sort of look inside the box and see what I've got, and then pop the box back in, and everything just stays neat rather than it being like, oh, can I pluck that out of the cupboard and all the rest of it. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with myself. And that's that, you know? Like, it's all sorted, and I'm quite happy with it. There's a couple of elements that need to be done. Like, this is just a little jar of chocolate chips, and there's some honey there that doesn't really have a home. The other materials that could have a box if they wanted, like I mean, I could fit more things in, but generally speaking, I'm quite pleased with it. So everything just feels like more accessible now, if that makes sense. I don't feel as much like I have to go fishing for ingredients and hope to find them in order to get to baking. So that feels quite nice, and I feel like that is an indicator that if I were to do that elsewhere in the kitchen, everything else would feel more, I guess, productive. Like, I'd be more confident in just getting home and cooking and seeing what we've got, and ultimately save money in the long run. So A grade for sorting out the baking cupboard. It's just that now I've got to sort out that version of the baking cupboard, which is all the tat. Alright, do me a solid and don't look too hard at that. I'll promise I'll fix it. I watch so many YouTubers who have just such shiny, clean apartments. I don't know how they do it. I've talked a little bit about how I want to get back into a certain level of fitness. I've joined a gym. I've done this before. My most fit I think I've ever been was like summer 2019. I was going to the gym a couple of times a week. I was doing my wrestling training, plus I was just sort of walking everywhere. You tend to do a lot of walking when you're a Londoner because we've got such a good public transport system that not many of us have cars, at least not many of my friends do. And I was gonna say the pandemic changed things, but it didn't at first. Do you remember the first lockdown was like super sunny? Things were going so wacko in my life that I just kept going for walks places. I used to walk in a massive triangle around West London, listening to audiobooks. I got loads of steps in, but then it was the second and the third and fourth lockdowns that felt so miserable, and a lot of those happened at winter. And when it's raining and bleak, you don't really want to go out that much. What I did want to do was eat pizza, and there was a Pizza Go-Go around the corner from my house. And if you got like a small individual Pizza Go-Go, it was like cheaper than buying a frozen pizza at Tesco. And what's a boy to do? The thing is, I love food and I love snacks, and that's never going to change, and I'm never going to make an apology for it. But the unfortunate science of the situation is this: if you eat loads of food and exercise, Bob's your uncle, everything's grand. If you eat loads of food and don't exercise, that's sort of fine, but there are consequences. And I recognise those consequences as lethargy and just generally struggling with stairs sometimes. And I don't like that. I'm only 34, so I just sort of want to take a little bit of control of that. I'm also very aware that I fall easily into the trap of thinking, well, why haven't I seen results immediately? I'm gonna lose courage. I'm gonna lose enthusiasm. I'm gonna go home and sulk instead. we must not do that this time. Slow and steady wins the race, but also I'm simply not as fit as I was when I was going to the gym last time properly in 2019. And that could be disheartening as well. If I'm gonna go and start running on the treadmill, where in the past I would be bashing out sort of 25-minute runs like it was nobody's business, I'm gonna struggle. When I lift the weight, I'm not gonna be able to lift as heavy and as much as I used to because I just haven't been doing it for literal years. And that's gonna feel disheartening, that's gonna feel tricky. Like this gym session that I'm going to right now is not gonna be as good as I remember gym sessions being. But I want to commit to this, and I want to commit to this for me so that I can feel that passion and energy. The checklist on the website when I signed up to the gym was like, why are you here? Is it to lose weight? Is it to gain muscle? Mine was literally just to feel better for my mental health. That's why I'm going. So, do you want to come with me? Should we make it a group trip? Come on, buddies helping each other out. You want to come, don't you? Come on, come on. Now, decided to use the workout program I was given when I was at university, which was my first experience of going to the gym. And oh my God, the University of Lincoln gym was perfect. It was just the right amount of kit. It wasn't massive. It was never like overpopulated. Also, it had like floor to ceiling windows, which meant that either in the daytime you were flooded with natural light, or at nighttime you'd be looking out over the hills and you'd see the cathedral lit up in the distance, and it was, oh my God, so beautiful. I miss Lincoln. I miss Lincoln so much. It was also, however, the site of my first fumble with gym routine, because the first couple of years I was a member, I was, for any Lincoln alumni who might be among our viewership, I was in the Junction. That's my student accommodation, and it was a straight line down all the way to the gym. About a 5-10 minute walk, super easy. But in third year we moved to a house that was just that little bit further away, which meant getting there was a bit of a trek, so I was less inclined to go. And it's been up and down ever since, really. When I first moved to London, there was a gym in Wandsworth that was essentially populated by a bunch of old people and me. In the wintertime, couldn't be bothered, especially when I had a part-time job, and it meant that on my days off, I just wanted to lie down. And obviously since the pandemic, every single time I've tried to start, it just has been this ballad of giving up, and I'm a little bit worried that I'll get spooked again, just by, like, you know, it being a bit difficult, feeling like everyone else around me is so much more advanced. Even though I'm aware that nobody is watching me, there still is something about all of these people doing what they're doing fancy exercises, and then there's just me trying to get back into the groove. And in the past, I've been demotivated very quickly by registering how unfit I am comparatively. So anything that I can do to make myself feel like, no, don't worry, this is a routine, it's absolutely fine, get yourself in the rhythm, and then we can work on it from there. But uni workout, it's not the most advanced, it's not the most fancy, it just is what's gonna get me in the rhythm. Okay, so I just got back from the gym on the 5th time. I joined last Tuesday, and according to this app, I have been 5 times to 2 different gyms, because on Sunday I had a surprise day completely off, so I thought I'd go exploring because it was a really sunny day. And I went to a gym in the middle of the city because I figured on a Sunday that would probably be less occupied, and I was correct. And what's been nice is finding the things that I really enjoy. Like on Sunday I went and I had a swim, and then I used the hydrotherapy pool and the sauna and the steam, and really like try to just chill out. And actually the unexpected side effect of that was I ended up feeling really creative and had a lot of sort of mind clarity, thinking a lot of ideas and just feeling excited about stuff. And that is ultimately what I wanted to achieve by joining the gym. I'm not going to lie to you, it's been an absolute mare whenever I've tried to do exertion that doesn't feel like playing, because swimming feels like when I was a kid and I'd get in the water and it doesn't feel like working out, it feels like playing. I half expected to be handed a packet of hula hoops on the way out. It's that level of like childhood. But when I do things like lifting the heavy things, which I have always loved doing, I'm finding it a lot more difficult than I remember. Part of that might be that I'm a little bit older. Probably the majority of that is I just haven't done it in a really long time. Even bodyweight stuff, I used to do a semi-regular amount of yoga, and I just haven't done that either. So it's almost certainly going to take a little while to get back into the swing of things. And again, like I said, I'm trying to not feel disheartened by it in any way. So it was just really nice when I was sat in that hot tub to feel that kind of, I guess, quiet creativity, that sense of calm that I don't really get an awful lot. It gets quite busy and foggy in the brain. I'm also drinking more water, which is a nice... It's just nice. It's just nice to feel like I'm doing active, taking care of self things. I used to travel home from work and feel a bit exhausted by the time I got in. It was like, how will I ever fit in a workout? Well, I've done it 3 times now. Even going to the one on Sunday, I didn't feel that idea of, oh no, how will I ever manage to get myself to go there? I was like, right, let's go. Part of that was it was a very sunny day. What was nice was when I arrived home, having been to work, done a load of stuff all day, and done a workout. Now I'm home, I'm getting ready to make myself some dinner. I really feel like I've achieved, so if I veg in front of the telly, it's all good. And actually, that is another kind of balance that I have been desperate to strive, and that leads me quite nicely on to... So I've been freelance since I left Waterstones back in 2017, and it's gone varying degrees of well. Obviously I've done the whole aging as a YouTuber thing, seen audiences change, made it through the pandemic, and now obviously we're very heavily into a lovely bit of a cosy lives. And while there are massive benefits to the freedom that being freelance can offer you, financially, lately, been a bit tricky. So I have increased the workload with the Wrestle Talk, No Rolls Barred, Parts from Unknown channels that I've been working with for a couple of years now. And there's been a two-pronged benefit to that. Financially, obviously, but also adding a little bit of structure. We've had a whole conversation about the work that I do and seeing if we can streamline it. So I'm basically doing part-time 3 days a week here now. Come into the office, do my reviews, help them out with some social media stuff, and it's really nice to know, okay, those are my days where I'm in the office and then I go home and that's my time to do my stuff, be creative. I think work-life balance is a really hard thing to achieve, and I know that when I've got to watch like 8 hours of wrestling a week plus the extra stuff that is fun to do just as a fan, then keeping myself accountable with all of the content creator vlogger stuff that I've been wanting to do and not make excuses. This has got a big year ahead. If I'm not careful, I end up working 7 days a week and not having any downtime. And I think one thing I've realised is how important it is to have those days as a creative person where you just stare at a wall for a while. And I've not really been making time for any of that stuff. So maybe in this new structure we'll be able to find a little bit more balance. Wouldn't that be nice?
Welcome to the Monday Night War. I am Luca in DAD representing Monday Night Raw.
I am Pete Quinnell representing Monday Night SmackDown.
And I am Dan Layton representing Monday Night NXT Truth.0. Between the train and the platform. I feel like I was less successful today showcasing the kind of healthy habit in this portion than I have been in the other two portions. Or maybe not, because today was an interesting example of it. Obviously it was a very busy day with all the bits that we did, but then also in the evening I was invited to take part in Blood on the Clock Tower Live. I was going anyway as an audience member, but one of the cast unfortunately couldn't make it, so I stepped in. And that was a real thrill for me. It has meant that I didn't have an evening, but I also don't care. It is another example of one of those ad hoc, my life doesn't really have structure and scheduling things, but then also it was so much fun and it was really nourishing to that creative part of me. So swings and roundabouts, maybe that is a good example. What it did do, actually, was really reaffirm that, Christ, I need that. I love the wrestling part of my career. I love doing the reviews. I love engaging with wrestling in a way that I've never really had an opportunity before as a fan. But talking about other creatives' work is not as satisfying for me as doing the creative work itself, so I need to find that balance. And today was a good example of having sort of the best of both worlds. Am I knackered now that it's home time? Absolutely. But would I do it again? Also absolutely. So maybe that's just what I have to accept for this portion of my career. That's fine, we'll work it out. I'll keep striving for balance, and I'll keep pushing myself to do the creative things. I think that's what the structure's going to allow. Those are my days to do the work and earn the money. These are my days to really be that creative person and find that rhythm and eventually push myself back into the place where I feel like I could take on the world, which is where I used to be back when I left Waterstones. And then, you know, life, adulthood, the world happened. So today was a good day. Baby steps along the way, and we will get there. I like to believe. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you again to HelloFresh for sponsoring it. We'll do more cozy vlogs very soon, but in the meantime, look after yourselves and each other, and I'll see you soon. Be good. Bye bye.